To be brave enough to take the leap, I actually tossed a coin to be brave.
You tossed a coin?
Tossed a coin, quit my job. And then set up on my own, and it took off faster than I'd anticipated.
You're not a numbers person and
No.
have no interest in them whatsoever.
I mean, I do have a maths A-level.
Yes, you do have a maths A-level. That's more than I've got. I haven't got a maths A-level. I got an N in A-level.
It's a confessional.
Yeah, this is a confession. I got an N in A-level maths.
Oh, I was totally winging it. I had no idea what I was doing. And also wasn't afraid to say that I had no idea what I was doing.
And yet here we are, 20...
Isn't it funny?
So I won't say how many years later, but it's a long, long time. Welcome to this episode of Business Diaries. Today I'm joined by Katie Mallinson. Katie took her business on a journey from Accelerator Hub in Huddersfield University to a seven-figure exit, to managing a global brand, to then resetting up again in a new Vice. So, Katie, you've had quite a unique career path. Will you give us a little bit of insight into what that looks like and the journey you've completed?
Sure. So after I graduated from university, I went straight into an agency in Leeds, a PR agency, where I'd worked on a placement. Worked there for about 6 years and thought I'd identified a way of doing things a little bit differently in our industry. Thought about it for a very long time and took me a while to be brave enough to take the leap. I actually tossed a coin to be brave.
You tossed a coin?
Tossed a coin, quit my job. And then set up on my own. And I'll be totally honest, the dream in the first instance was to just be a freelance copywriter, but for really unusual technical organisations that usually struggle to articulate what they were all about. Turned out that was quite a gap in the market, and it took off faster than I'd anticipated. Yeah,
because we met, I think you came to one of our events, and I think it was the March 2014 event. I don't think you came to the first one in the November.
No, I didn't.
And I remember you there, and I came to see, and you was in Huddersfield University's Think Lab or whatever it might have been. Yeah, you was there, wasn't you? So that's going back to early 2014.
Yeah.
And fast forward, and we're going to go into what happened in that period, but fast forward 11 years. Was it 11 years or was it 10?
10 years it was.
10 years full exit.
Yeah.
Build, scale, sell.
Yeah.
Walked away.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And how bad is it that wasn't ever part of the plan?
No, it wasn't. I remember sitting in that room with you, and you had no intentions of building an agency. It was very much this is me, it suits my lifestyle, I can work around what I want to work around with clients that I want to do. And you came to us to work around profit extractions and long-term planning based off that business.
Yeah.
And fast forward 10 years, you sell for a seven-figure exit. It's ridiculous that you went through. So let's start talking about that journey and what you did, right through and how things evolved within the business.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people used to ask me, right, in the earlier stages of the business, what is your exit plan? And I always used to feel like I was a bit of a fraud, that I didn't have one, and that I was almost playing at it because I didn't have an exit plan. But what I wanted to do was concentrate on what I enjoyed. And for as long as I was enjoying it, I wasn't thinking about the exit. Yeah. But because that came from a really passionate place, and like I said, I'd identified that market gap, demand grew. I wasn't afraid then of recruiting. I just thought, I have to take the leap. I recruited. We then started acquiring clients overseas, not just in the UK. Because we stayed true to our niche, we turned clients away if they weren't for us. And then, with expansion came an office. We moved around our complex and to the point where we had the biggest space there.
Yeah, that's in the Heritage Building.
Yeah. So we had the entire loft, which is amazing. But in line with me not being afraid of recruiting, I also wasn't afraid of seeking expertise from you guys, for example, in terms of how I build a really robust organisation that delivers great service. That's what we concentrated on. I am quite risk averse, as you know.
Really?
So I wanted to make sure we were compliant. But then the more I understood about what you guys could do to help me, that I wanted to be a sustainable, healthy, financially healthy organisation as well, for the benefit of colleagues as well as myself. As you also know, invested heavily in having fun and creating an enriching environment for staff along the way as well. And I think that became part of our personality, that we did have a lot of energy as a team. And to do that without worrying about money, I needed to have a really good grip on my finances, I suppose.
What I really liked about your approach to things is you didn't strip the business of cash.
No.
You, despite my best efforts to get you to draw money out, you kept the money within the business and made sacrifices in your own life and your own lifestyle, where you could have lived in a bigger house at the time, and you could have done all those. You always drove a nice car, in fairness, and I think that was one of your things, wasn't it? A nice car. But you could have put more into your pension. You could have done things, but you didn't. You chose to reinvest back into that business, which really started to talk about the scalability of things. And I think, from memory, one of the big turning points for me was when you put a CRM system in place, because you put quite a powerful tool in, didn't you?
So that was more of a project management system. So that was like, I didn't want to shackle us in terms of, I didn't want us to become so process driven that it stripped us of our creativity. But as the team grew and our clients, were different time zones, different languages, very different types of services, it felt like we needed something a bit more official to kind of bind it all together beyond spreadsheets, as lovely as those spreadsheets were. So that really liberated our growth, I guess, because we had a really good grip on everything we needed to do in the short term, really granular level of planning, but in the medium to long term as well, which, if you think about, some of our clients trusted us with their entire organisation. It's not just their marketing, but their internal communications, their reputation. So there were big, meaty pieces of work sometimes. We also had colleagues, post-COVID, we had colleagues in different locations, not just in this country, but we also had a girl who travelled the world and worked for us while she was on her travels. And that system sort of, was the glue that kind of bound us all together, I guess. Like thinking about COVID and going back to those cash reserves, I mean, it was a lifeline, actually. Overnight, I think it was within the first week, we lost half our retainer income, only temporarily. But because people, businesses were nervous, weren't they? And it was like a moment for us. But actually, fortunately, they came back on quite quickly, because they were confident in the marketing and what they needed to do. They needed to keep investing as best they could. But also that kind of gave us the peace of mind and confidence that we were going to be resilient through that period, for the length it lasted. Yeah.
And just going back to the system bit, I think as it liberated you a little bit, because you didn't have to micromanage people's workload. You could have a helicopter view of where people were, what was on the board, what was due out, and the process situation in there. I think
the agency management is very different from one business to the next, and I'm not going to sit there and criticise any approach, because each to their own. We'd never actually gone down that micromanagement route. We purposely had quite a flat structure in the business, which was easy when we were little. With growth in headcount in the business, that became much tougher. But I didn't want to introduce layers of management or that more micromanagement attitude to make sure things were getting done. So that tool was almost empowered us to maintain the culture without that micromanagement approach, but we were just each accountable to the tool. It kind of out of our minds into that tool.
And that included you, didn't it?
Totally, yeah.
So while you are still running this business, the team were running the business for you through the tool, giving you the time back to do what you enjoyed, which was to either win new work or work with the clients that you were passionate about working with. So it kept you operational within the business, and also kept the business operational, which I thought was really clever.
There was massive transparency, and I think, like you say, I did have that view, if I needed that view, that at a glance, where are we up to with projects and status, and we then linked that, because we were a timesheet driven business. So that kind of gave me an indication of how financially healthy the business was. But then it gave other people transparency as well. And we, even the size we got to, we used to sit down at the end of every month, reflect on what we'd done, and then plan together for the month ahead. We could have structured the business and we could have done that in smaller pods of teams, but we chose to sacrifice that time. And it was a sacrifice, if you think about that billable time, to get round a table and not report back for reporting back's sake, but it was actually a really good way of celebrating what we'd done as we planned for the month ahead, but sharing ideas as well. There were junior members of the team, there always is, isn't there? And those people, how do they learn? If you, especially when you're so busy, it's easy to get your head down, isn't it? Crack on. but then forget to communicate. And actually, that's what we're all about as an organisation.
Yeah. No, it was an impressive infrastructure that you put in place, being so fluid. I mean, we're very system oriented, very structured in the way, whereas you're a bit more fluid than that. But there was systems and process behind the fluidity, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that. So you grew from Huddersfield University to taking over the probably the most prestigious office in the Heritage Building, which is a beautiful office, and it was lovely. I remember coming to the opening. I do think I was slightly hungover. I remember being hungover.
I remember that too.
But I came. Me and Ben drove over. It was a long ride, and the M62 was busy. But yes, it was a long ride. But so you've gone through that. You've got this brilliant, successful business that is making significant amounts of money, and there's no, it was making good money. You were making good inroads into your future planning with your pensions. I know you were working with CHN around those sorts of things, and you were doing that. And then you woke up one morning and decided you wanted to sell.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, I remember a text message. I think it was about 6 o'clock one morning. I think I'm going to sell the business. Ring me. Right. Okay. So
you were literally like, why? Why would you do
this? Because you've got a business that is operational, that works. The team is self-sufficient from a production point of view. And it's profitable. And it's like, well, let's sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't
that decision.
I didn't literally wake up one morning and decide that was not a coin toss moment, but it was, I don't know, probably a catalyst of events that I hadn't acknowledged individually. Yeah. But if you think about it, there was COVID. I'd had 2 babies during Screeber's growth. After my first attempt at maternity leave, and I was going to have a maternity leave, I broke my back. So that was a horrendous experience. But, the team rallied. The company was absolutely fine. I was fine. That was ancient history. Then my second attempt at maternity leave, COVID came. So it was, it had been a really enjoyable ride and fulfilling ride, but a challenging one. And I don't know if I just started to feel a bit weary with it all. Yeah. And I didn't ever want that to rub off onto colleagues, onto clients, the reputation of the business that we created. And it wasn't that I fell out of love with Screeber or anything. I just started to, I'd always tried to have an open mind, hence no exit plan. I just always, tried to be quite fluid in my thinking. And then I just started to think, what would this business look like if I wasn't here? What would my career look like if I wasn't the MD of Screeber? And we probably got to that point in our growth journey where it did need additional layers of management or perhaps people to start sharing the load. Yeah.
It certainly was at a point where you needed to reinvest in it further to take it on to that next level. It could have continued at that level forever, but because of your success and because of your reputation, work kept coming, didn't it? And it just kept going. I remember you said, I don't want any more work, Phil. I don't want any more. It means more people, it means more money, and it's that sort of thing.
And for some people, they would relish that next phase of growth. And I knew I could do it. I believed I could do it, but I just didn't necessarily know if I wanted to. I going back to the very first day of Screeber, I enjoyed working with clients. I enjoyed crafting communications. I enjoyed getting in other organisations' boardrooms and being nosy and listening to what was going on and helping them. And the bigger Screeber grew, the less I was able to do that. Yeah. So, one day I just started to
that because I've been through those stages myself as you grow. I mean, I think we got to about 1 million turnover and it was all focused on me. And then before you know it, you've stepped out of the business and you're not working with very many clients. And that's the thing that you ultimately enjoy is that client interaction. So even though your services were PR and marketing, we were accounting, it was very, 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 very similar journey. I'm not as brave as you, and I just decided to go again in a different way because I don't think I'd get a job anywhere else, first and foremost, and I don't know anything else, so this is all I know. So I didn't really have a lot of choice but to go again. So, and it's an invest in those levels of management. So yeah, it was for you, it was the right time to start to get out. Yeah. And then the sales process started. Yes. Now that was a whole different experience, wasn't it?
I was totally winging it. I had, thankfully, someone I trusted in you supported me with that, but I had no idea what I was doing. No. And also wasn't afraid to say that I had no idea what I was doing. I approached it probably like I had with most of the things during Screeber's history, of just with honesty and, I'll work it out where I can. Yeah. I'll ask for support and advice where I need it. I had one conversation with a guy who specialised in putting businesses up for sale, and it was, I think I actually had that meeting in your...
You did.
So it was a neutral space, and I just thought this whole process, it made me feel really nervous as to whether I was doing the right thing. But it just didn't fit with, the idea of this beauty parade of strangers that would come in, and I probably undoubtedly would have got more money for the business had I gone down that route. Yeah. But it just, rightly or wrongly, wasn't the priority for me. The priority was the fit and the alignment of the company that took over, for the benefit of clients, for the benefit of staff, for the benefit of my extraction from the business, because I again, open-minded, but my best guess was that I didn't want to stick around for 3 to 5 years with a phased exit. I thought I might get in the way. So it was by chance over breakfast one morning with a guy who I often met for breakfast to chew the fat about agency life, and this conversation just came up, and it felt, oh God, this is literally like right time, right place. He's talking about what's until that point being locked in my head. Hence the text, the bombshell text.
The bombshell, yeah.
Got a bit of a different brief.
Different brief, yeah. But I think there's a lot of the people watching this who can relate to the situation about they get to that point where they have to go again or they have to sell, one of the two, because the business is doing so well. So I think to understand that there is a way out and there is a very successful way out if you manage it in the right way is quite important. And then also there's the way that you can go again. So it's got quite a nice balance to it, this story. But the sales process was challenging, and it was a whole new different world.
Yeah.
Solicitors getting involved who just make things complicated. Sorry.
I mean, I had a great one, but they speak a different language, don't they?
And they think very differently to us. They think worst case scenario. Yes. I remember us having lots of conversations about, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But they always might do.
Yes.
And there was always those eventualities, and I know there was lots of backwards and forwards, and sometimes when you've almost agreed a deal with someone people you considered friends, I suppose, and strong working relationship, becomes a little bit fractured because of the legal involvement behind it. And it took its toll on you emotionally and personally. Didn't it?
Because because we were going down the route of selling to someone that already had a relationship with the business rather than putting it up for sale, and we also wanted to do it as quickly and cleanly as possible, whilst also running an organisation, whilst not disrupting the team, I did most of it on my own. So it would be like do the day job as best as to my standards, because I am
Yes,
a
that
control
never
freak.
dipped. Yeah.
And then go home and work out what to do with this.
Data room.
But I was fortunate, I guess, in that the structure of the business, it relied largely on retainer income. So we had long-term satisfied clients, but with recurring revenue, which made for an attractive sale.
Yeah.
So
it put some value into it. So formalising those agreements with suppliers, which you hadn't done historically.
No.
And then you move to earlier in the actual thought process, put something in place, gave an increased value to the business rather than it just be, well, we like Katie, so we're going to work with her, because Katie is not going to be there anymore. No. So that prep work, it's not something you can just wake up and go, I'm selling my business tomorrow.
No.
There is a long build-up process, and I think a lot of people don't anticipate what that is. And you did it without I would say, really vigorous M&A process.
Oh no!
You had it was a friendly sale.
Yeah.
It was very good. You were still going out for breakfast and things like that.
Yes.
And responding to, I remember you were both responding to emails to your solicitors at the same time, whilst having breakfast.
It was probably very unconventional in that respect.
It was very unconventional, but there's a lot of financial due diligence that goes into that, and I know they did do some very good due diligence, but it wasn't to the depth that someone would expect to. I mean, in most acquisitions, especially if they're going to be bought by big firms, maybe corporations, then looking at 3 years worth of accounts. What's the management accounts? What's the variances? Why has this moved? So it's not something. What I'm trying to get across is it's not something you can just wake up one morning and send a text, I want to sell my business.
No, absolutely
and sell
not.
it and get a good value. You were very fortunate that you did, but I think people need to start thinking about, if it's going to be something you're considering, you need to start preparing for it, because then when you do decide it's time, you've done 2 years worth of work.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of linking back to what we were saying earlier. We made lots of decisions and implemented systems and, formulated working relationships with clients at the right point in time, not with a view to exit actually, but in hindsight, like the system that you were talking about, the project management system, linked to the kind of flat structure we had in running the company also meant that clients, yes, they had their trusted account manager, for example, but they also knew a lot of other people in the business. It wasn't, and other people in the business had some degree of knowledge of those clients. So it did become less about me and more about Scriba as a team, which was important in growing our own brand. So that box was ticked. And then the retainers, was easy for everybody. That allowed us to have a more medium to long-term view of client activity rather than activity in that one given month for the sake of sending an invoice. That wasn't how we worked. We were really in it for the long haul with our clients, which led to their retention and also led to a really healthy client base and revenue stream when the time came to sale. So it was never the plan to get it to that point for exit, but it beautifully happened that it was in a healthy state at that time.
And of course, you were somebody that invested from a very early stage about management in management accounts and budgets and forecasts, and that was for your personal peace of mind, so you knew where things were, because I think you self-confessed you're not a numbers person and have no interest in them whatsoever.
I do have a maths A-level.
Yes, you do have a maths A-level. That's more than I've got. I haven't got a maths A-level. I got an N in A-level.
It's a confessional.
This is a confession. I got an N in A-level maths and nearly fell. It was the night after when Man United beat Bayern Munich in the cup final, in the European Cup final, and I'd got in at 7:30 and my exam was at 9:00.
Wow.
So I just opened the first question, didn't know what that meant, and then shut it and just went to sleep. So, and yet here we are, 20.
Isn't it funny?
So I won't say how many years later, but it's a long, long time later. But going back to my point about that, you'd invested in the management accounts and you could see where it was because you did that to invest in the business.
Yeah.
And for your own peace of mind. But also you then you had a business that has clear and concise financials that mapped to a budget that had variance analysis and that gave the buyer absolute comfort that what you were saying was on paper was actually legitimate because you've got, I think you'd had 5 years worth of management accounts where it was at that point, and you could see the trajectory of the business was going. So when you're saying, I've got this in the pipeline, this is what it's going to be, it increased the value of the actual sale of the business because of that security.
And again, going back to what you said about perhaps not a conventional sale process, and I remember having these conversations at the time. I was so confident in those accounts that I literally was like, go into our account system, have a look at it. I had nothing to hide. I knew they were bulletproof, robust,
boringly clean.
Yeah. Yes, they were. I was super proud of that. But they were in a great shape. So why not show them off?
Exactly. And subsequently, you ended up negotiating a pretty... a 7-figure exit, which was fantastic, and that came to fruition and without any issues or anything like that, and you managed to exit the business relatively quickly, didn't you?
Yeah, so the agreement was that I would stay on for 3 months, and I think that was important during that transitionary phase, and there was an open agreement after that if I wanted to stay, we'd look at options. If I wanted to leave, that was completely fine, and I went for the latter. And I think that was the right thing to do. It's hard walking away from your baby.
It is your baby. It was your baby, wasn't it, for a long time?
Yeah, but then at that point in time, it wasn't mine anymore, was it? So I think it was the right thing to do. And I needed a rest by that point.
You did have a little rest,
didn't you? A little.
You have a little rest. So you managed to grow a business from a hot desk in a university... I don't even know what they were called.
I suppose it was the equivalent of a co-working space then. But like these,
that's the word I was looking for. Yeah,
they had Accelerate, whatever they're called.
That's it, the accelerator. Hub, wasn't it? Yeah. So you've gone from that to a 7-figure exit where you can and you have nothing to do.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it?
It is, and obviously then you decided to take a role in a global organisation and you worked there for a period of time. Yeah. But then the itch kind of came back.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what you're doing now.
So, I've gone full circle and I am that freelancer again, I guess.
But a different type of freelancer.
Yes, very much. So, I think I've probably got nearly 20 years experience behind me now in communications, and the majority of that naturally is in media relations, marketing, communications for growth. But because I was in a privileged position throughout Scriba's growth to be trusted by organisations when it came to slightly more complex business matters sometimes. So yes, I'd work with the sales teams, for example, and we'd collaborate in terms of how we were going to take new products and services to market, enter new markets and so on. So that was great. But then I'd also work with HR managers or ops people in terms of, we're really struggling to recruit, or we've got this internal crisis going on, what do we do? And that kind of got the thought processes whirring us, I guess. And as, again, loose conversations with people, people started to say, is this something you would be able to help with? And I thought, yeah, I definitely could. And I got this like fire in my belly again, and thought, this feels great. So again, kind of really relaxed, just exploratory chats turned into the germ of a business idea, I guess. So then I only recently set up, the company name is Loquity, which is hopefully just a modern take on an ancient word to talk. And I've got a small number of clients so far, but in each of those scenarios, they're dealing with very different communications related challenges. But it is sitting around the table with really experienced, really senior leaders in the business, but they're facing challenges that they don't quite know how to tackle. Yeah. And it's not because they're inexperienced, it's not because they've necessarily reached a stumbling block, but they're busy doing other things. The challenges have in some instances become so complex that they can't see the wood for the trees, or they just want a fresh perspective. So, really exciting for me to be going on that journey now. So who knows?
And who's your favourite client?
I mean, I can't think. I'll come back to you on that one.
Because obviously you're working with us now, aren't you?
I am. Yeah.
So you've joined our advisory board, which is something that we've set up internally. As a senior management team of accountants, we've sat round the table and said, we've got us to this point, and if we want to realise our ambitions, I think what we quickly understood is that we don't know anything about sales and marketing. Yeah. We don't know anything about people. Our operations function was getting neglected because it was being picked up alongside the sales, the marketing, the business development, and the people. And so what we decided to do was form this advisory board. And you are one of the founding people.
I am. I know. I'm very lucky, aren't I? Yeah, it's brilliant.
Well, we'll see. You're only 6 weeks in.
We'll do this again in a few weeks.
We'll see this in a few weeks.
See how great I am. And that's like the dream for me. A really open environment where people are curious, people are trusting of one another, really transparent. There's no ego at the table, not much anyway. There's no ego at the table. It's very much on where do we need to get to and how can we work together to get there. Yeah. And I think it's a really lovely blend actually that, of people, because they're at the heart of it, aren't they? But there's already conversations about technology and systems and how we can just bring to life everything that you've already got, because you've got a fantastic foundation, you've got a trusted brand, you've already got in-house marketing resource who are great, just saying. And now it's just elevating
really well, by the way,
that's going to be like the teaser, isn't it? Our marketing team are superb. It's just about elevating that, isn't it? And like you said, bringing the right people around the table to do that.
Yeah, and it's only what you did back in the day when you talk about scaling your business. You brought us in to do the financial elements of it. So when we sat down and thought about why we tried to do something that we can't do, we've by hook or by crook, we've got to where we are today. Yeah, probably a lot of luck. Yeah, a lot of hard work, but to kick on to that next level, and we have aspirations to make a top 100 firm, but it'll be very different from a stereotypical top 100 firm where it's all about price, it's all about turnout and turnaround days, and that's all that matters. We're going to very much focus on the service and things like that. So that expertise will really drive us forward faster than we could even through acquisition. I think already starting to see the changes. That the meeting we had on, was it yesterday? I can't remember.
It was, yesterday
and
morning.
Literally, it was probably one of the best management meetings I've had in over a year. Because it literally in, out, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going. And it was like, I don't have to make any decisions at this point because he's got complete trust in the people sat around this table. You go do what you think should be done, and then we'll come back and see how it all pans out. So, but
don't you think there's like a really nice alignment of the skills of the people around that table, because we're each very different. We confident in our own lane, but also the mindset, attitude, approach, whatever you want to say. Like we are quite like-minded in that we trust one another. We've got a lot of respect for one another, and also aren't afraid to just say when we don't understand something or don't. Or something's not our bag. Yeah. And like,
or shut up, dickhead, as a lot of people say.
I mean, that's not
kind of standard term in
our my, go-to, but I think it.
Is that when you start picking up the pen?
Yeah, I start fiddling. But I just think it's exactly like what you said, albeit I was at a very different stage in my journey. bring in the experts to do what they're great at, and it will really help your business fly. And I don't think that's a sign of weakness. I think that's actually a sign of, real leadership, and confidence in where you want to be. It's exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting. It is exciting. So yeah, I mean, and any future plans for you outside obviously giving us world domination in the accountancy space?
Well,
with an infinite source of leads.
That infinite.
Talk about infinite a lot, don't we?
Yeah, we do. My plans are to, in terms of my own stuff, I'm not going to say I'm going to be really selective with the organisations I work with, because that feels a bit arrogant, but I want to enjoy the projects that I'm working on, and that doesn't mean, I said to someone the other day, I'm just really enjoying having fun at work. And they were like, oh, Katie, it's not all about that. And I was like, no, just to be clear, you can really work hard and you can be challenged and still enjoy doing it. So I'm really enjoying my mind being absolutely sometimes. Yeah. And who knows what will happen for Loquite. It might be just me forever. Might not. Let's just see.
Brilliant.
As was with Scriber, I ain't got a plan.
You ain't got a plan. I could get a text at 6 o'clock one morning going, this is the plan.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. So, well, for me, that's just about everything. Thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed it. I love your story. It's one of those real success stories that I do share with people anonymously, obviously. But no, it is a real success of taking someone from an accelerator hub to an exit, having scaled and built a business that could continue without her and continue to be successful. And I think that is the sign of a true business. That's where people have stepped away from having a job and being chained to a business, because everything relies on them, and being able to step away and enjoy the benefits for the incredibly difficult journey that is business ownership. Yeah,
it's tough, but it's worth it.
It is. I'm only 21, by the way. It's great, yeah. So,
I remember you when you were youthful.
Oh, yeah, no, you showed a picture of him the other day, and in fact to the entire office. So
yeah.
Thank you very much for
You're
that.
so welcome.
So that's it for this episode of Dear Diary. Thank you once again to Katie, and I look forward to seeing you next time.